Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time we are diving into Millennium Armageddon. It's by Kristen Collins.
Oh, yeah.
Have you read this one?
I have, yeah.
It's pretty wild, right?
Yeah, it's a wild ride.
So good.
Keeps you on the edge of your seat.
It really does. Okay, so for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure, it basically takes that whole Y2K anxiety we all remember, computers crashing, the end of the world as we know it, and it throws in, get this, angels and demons.
Such a potent combination.
Right.
Like
Right.
real world fear with like this ancient apocalyptic dread.
Exactly. I mean, it's 1999. Everyone's freaking out about their digital watches turning into pumpkins or whatever.
Right.
And Collins just drops this bomb. The supernatural is real, and these angels and demons, they are not happy with us humans.
No, they are not. And I love how the author uses that really specific moment in time, Y2K,
Yeah.
to dig into these huge, timeless questions, right? Like good versus evil, free will.
Oh, for sure.
What does it even mean to be human?
Yeah. Yeah, and especially when it feels like the world's about to go kaput.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about Grace. She's our protagonist in all this chaos. It's New Year's Eve, 1999. And not only is the world on the verge of collapse, but she's also dealing with an unexpected pregnancy.
Big time unexpected.
And then the father.
An angel.
An angel, yeah. Talk about complicating your life plan.
Right.
But here's what I love about Grace. She is so relatable. She's not this perfect, chosen one heroine.
No, not at all.
She's just a woman trying to make sense of this insane situation. She doubts, she makes mistakes, she even gets kind of snippy with the whole messenger of heaven thing.
Totally. Like in one scene, she's worried about her apartment deposit and craving Chinese food. And then in the next scene, she's like staring down this angel who just smashed through her window.
It's such a great contrast. It makes the whole thing feel so grounded, even when things get really, really weird.
Totally. Because who hasn't wished for some, divine intervention when they're stressing about bills?
Right. Okay, but on that note, we have to introduce Castile. He's the father, the angel, and he's kind of this brooding, almost melancholy figure, and he's bound by all these rules, especially when it comes to interfering with humans.
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because angels can, influence us, nudge us in a certain direction, but they can't control our choices.
Right. Free will and all that.
Exactly. So that's the big question.
Yeah.
Was Grace's pregnancy really her choice?
Hmm.
Or was there a little bit of, shall we say, angelic persuasion involved?
It makes you wonder, right?
It really does.
Like how much of our own lives are truly our choices versus, I don't know, fate, destiny, a nudge from some higher power.
Or lower power, depending on how you look at it.
Well, true. Okay, but before we go too far down that rabbit hole, we have to talk about the Nephilim.
Oh, yes. The offspring of angels and humans.
Yeah.
Talk about a taboo subject.
Yeah, and in Millennium Armageddon, the Nephilim are a huge deal. They represent this blending of worlds, this disruption of the natural order. They're caught right in the middle of this epic battle between heaven and hell.
And that's where things get really intense, right? You've got the whole world on edge, waiting for Y2K to hit.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's bracing for the digital apocalypse.
Right. And in the middle of all that, Grace is about to have a baby.
Talk about bad timing.
As if labor wasn't dramatic enough, right?
Right. And it's not just the labor, it's the angels and demons duking it out right outside her window. I mean, Collins really layers these threats so well.
Oh, absolutely. You've got this technological meltdown looming, society's unraveling, AD, there's a supernatural war exploding all around.
Yeah, it's like she took every millennial fear we had and cranked it up to 11.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that scene, oh man, where the power goes out during a snowstorm. And Grace sees them, the angels and demons, fighting outside.
Oh my gosh, chills. Literal chill. It's like this glimpse into a whole hidden world, right? Like right there under the surface of everything we know. And poor Ami, right? Grace's best friend.
Ugh, I know. That's where it really hits home how personal this whole conflict gets.
It's one thing to read about angels and demons battling it out in some abstract way, but when they can just possess the people you love.
Exactly. It shows how insidious this threat is, how it can twist the everyday into something terrifying.
And that detail about the demon, like savoring the thought of Grace's nightmares, so creepy.
Right. Like it's not even enough to control her in the physical world. They want to get inside her head, too.
Total psychological warfare. It makes you appreciate Grace's strength even more, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she's terrified, she's grieving, she's giving birth during the apocalypse. But she never gives up on protecting her daughter.
Yeah, she's a fighter. And when she realizes that running and hiding isn't going to cut it, she does something incredibly ballsy.
She calls for a truce, right?
Yes. She's like, enough is enough. We need to talk. And she demands a seat at the table with heaven and hell. Talk about a power move.
Right. She goes from LeMay's class to negotiating world peace.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And we finally meet the big players, Michael and Gabriel, Lucifer and Uriel.
The archangels, both sides.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because it's not as simple as good versus evil, right? Like even within heaven, you've got different opinions on humanity, on the Nephilim.
For sure. Michael seems to genuinely care for Seraphina, sees her as this symbol of hope.
Yeah, but then there's Gabriel, who just oozes this resentment toward humanity.
He's like waiting for us to screw up again.
Right, totally. And then on the other side, you've got Lucifer agreeing to negotiate. Not exactly your typical portrayal of the devil.
No. Which makes him all the more interesting, right? He sees an opportunity to protect the Nephilim, even if it means working with the enemy.
It's such a tangled web. Makes you realize how much nuance there is to this whole good versus evil thing. But with all these different agendas, do they actually reach a decision? Like, do they agree on anything? So they actually come to an agreement. Angels and demons, shaking hands, making peace.
Well, it's more like a maybe. They agree on some stuff. Definitely not a love fest.
Like a truce.
Yeah, more like a fragile truce, putting the
Yeah.
weapons down for now. Collins doesn't wrap everything up in a neat little bow.
Yeah. Which I kind of love, Leaves you hanging.
Exactly. The Y2K thing, that might be over, but there's still so much tension, right? Like heaven, hell, humanity.
Yeah.
It feels like one wrong move and boom.
A total chaos. Round 2.
Oh, right. And Gabriel, oh man, those looks, he keeps giving grace. Like he's just waiting for her, for all of humanity to screw up. Makes you think the real challenge isn't surviving the apocalypse. It's what comes after.
Living in the aftermath.
Exactly. When angels and demons are just walking around in good and evil, it's not so black and white anymore. Like, what does it even mean to be human in that world?
It's a big question. I mean, could we even handle it, living with that much uncertainty, being so different from us?
It's something to think about, right? Especially now, with so much division in the world, so much fear of the other. It's like Collins tapped into something very real.
Oh, for sure. Speculative fiction, it's not just escapism, is it? It's like holding up a mirror.
Makes you think about the world differently.
Yeah, exactly. And that ending, oh man, Grace, Castile, and little Seraphina just walking off into the unknown. It's like, that's where the real story starts.
It's not really an ending, is it? It's a beginning.
It's like, okay, the world didn't end, but now what? What happens next? So, yeah, if you're looking for a book that will keep you on the edge of your seat, make you think, make you question everything you thought you knew, definitely check out Millennium Armageddon.
It's one of those books that stays with you long after you finish it.
Totally. And hey, maybe it'll inspire you to write your own story. Imagine the world you want to see, the possibilities. But for now, we gotta wrap up. Thanks for joining us for another Deep Dives, and until next time, keep exploring those big questions.